I never imagined that chasing after enchanted gold would feel rather like trying to herd cats if the cats were invisible, constantly rearranging themselves and occasionally bursting into song. Yet here I was, trailing behind Grimble the Greedy, who was muttering curses under his breath that sounded suspiciously like prayers to some forgotten god of coin. Our journey began at dawn, the sun casting a lazy golden glow over the kingdom, as if mocking my own foolish ambition. Grimble, a merchant whose pockets were as deep as his distrust, insisted on leading the way to the fabled cache of enchanted gold. He claimed to have insider knowledge, which mostly involved overhearing tavern gossip and interpreting the twitch of a beggar's eye. As we ventured into the whispering forest, the trees seemed to lean in closer, their leaves rustling in a way that suggested they enjoyed our discomfort. The gold leaves hanging from the branches shimmered unnaturally, casting eerie reflections that played tricks on the mind. "Keep your wits about you," Grimble warned, clutching his coin pouch as if it were a shield. "This place doesn't take kindly to fools or greed." I snorted. "Suits me perfectly. I'm a fool by trade, and greed is not my style, though I do fancy a shiny bauble now and then." Our path was anything but straightforward. At one point, a sudden burst of laughter echoed from the trees, and a cluster of golden acorns tumbled down, narrowly missing my head. I caught one, feeling its weight and warmth, but the moment it touched my palm, it shimmered and transformed into a tiny singing bird that fluttered away, leaving me blinking in surprise. "Magic's got a sense of humor," Grimble grumbled. Our next stop was a tavern, a raucous den where dwarves with booming voices and shifty eyes gathered. Negotiating with them was akin to juggling flaming torches while riding a unicycle. I tried to barter for a single glowing nugget, but the dwarves insisted it was worth a king's ransom and a barrel of the finest mead. "How about a joke in exchange?" I offered, producing a sly grin. They paused, intrigued despite themselves. I launched into a tale about a knight who lost his sword but found a chicken instead. The dwarves erupted in laughter, and after much haggling, punctuated by spilled ale and a minor scuffle, we secured the nugget. It pulsed softly in my hand, promising both fortune and folly. As we prepared to return, the enchanted gold revealed its true nature. Attempting to equip my soldiers with helmets forged from the gold resulted in the helmets transforming into singing birds, chirping discordantly amid the ranks. Swords turned into bubbles that floated lazily away. Pop, pop, pop. The battlefield preparations turned into farce. But amid the chaos, an idea took root. "Perhaps this is the weapon of choice," I mused aloud. A war of laughter against a war of illusions. Seraphina, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow but nodded thoughtfully. That night, by the crackling campfire, we pondered the meaning of true wealth. It seemed the enchanted gold was less about riches and more about revealing the absurdity of greed and the unexpected value of camaraderie and wit. As dawn approached, the forest outside our camp whispered its secrets once more. I knew the road ahead would be unpredictable and fraught with folly. But also that sometimes the greatest treasure is the laughter shared on the journey. And perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough to turn the tide. But as I drifted to sleep, the faint glimmer of the enchanted gold caught my eye changing shape again, as if hinting at yet another twist in our tale. If gold was foolish, then I was the fool to lead it, and I was ready to play my part. The prophecy rewritten. If there was one thing Jasper the Jester had learned since donning the crown, it was that the truth was a slippery beast, far more complicated than the simple jests he'd tossed before the court. It had teeth, claws, and an inconvenient habit of biting just when you thought you had it by the tail. And on this particular morning, in the musty shadows of the Royal Library, Jasper was about to discover just how tangled the kingdom's fate could be. "Are you quite sure this is the original scroll?" Jasper asked, eyeing the yellowed parchment held carefully in Quill's trembling hands. Quill, the chronicler, adjusted his spectacles and nodded nervously. "Most assuredly, Your Majesty. This copy predates the soothsayer's public reading by several decades. The language is archaic, but the essence should be intact." Jasper tapped his wooden scepter against the oak table, the soft jingle of the bells in his cap echoing faintly. "Then explain to me why the words here are so very different from what Madame Vex proclaimed to the court." Together, they bent over the scroll, tracing the faded ink with careful fingers. The prophecy, as it had been interpreted, foretold an inevitable war born of lies and illusions, a shadowed doom hanging over the kingdom like a storm cloud. Yet here, in this ancient text, the tone was less dire, almost playful in parts, and with a curious openness about choices yet to be made. "It seems," Quill murmured, "that the prophecy was less a fixed decree and more a warning. A riddle wrapped in metaphor." Jasper grinned, a spark of mischief lighting his eyes. "Sounds like my kind of prophecy. A puzzle, not a prison." But as they studied the text, a more troubling realization dawned on them. The soothsayer's version had twisted words, amplifying fear and uncertainty to tighten her grip on the court's influence. The prophecy had been weaponized, a tool to manipulate and control, not to guide. So the war of illusions, Jasper mused aloud, might just be a war of misinterpretations. The idea was both exhilarating and terrifying. If the prophecy was a law, at least a half-truth, could rewriting it change the kingdom's course? Could words, once spoken and believed, be undone by new ones? Later that day, the throne room was heavy with tension. Madame Vex stood before Jasper, her eyes gleaming with malice. "You would unravel destiny itself, fool," she hissed. "Some truths are too dangerous to tamper with." Jasper met her glare with steady calm. "And some lies are too heavy to carry. Madame, I'd rather bear the weight of truth even, if it's dressed in a fool's cap, than be shackled by fear." The courtiers whispered, their loyalties wavering like leaves in a storm. Madame Vex's sneer faltered, replaced by a flicker of doubt. The jester's honesty, once a source of chaos, was now a beacon, summoning his motley council Sir Bumble, Quill, and others. Jasper stood in the courtyard beneath a sky streaked with twilight hues. With a dramatic flourish, he unrolled a fresh parchment and read aloud the rewritten prophecy. Gone were the ominous declarations. In their place were words of hope, choice, and the power of unity. "This kingdom's fate," he declared, "is not written in stone, but in the hearts of its people. Let us choose laughter over despair, truth over fear, and together rewrite our story." Laughter rippled through the crowd, mingling with cheers and the clatter of armor. Even Sir Bumble managed a proud, if somewhat bewildered, smile. As dawn painted the castle walls with gold, Jasper stood atop the battlements, the new prophecy clutched in his hand. Below, faces turned upward, hopeful, uncertain, but alive. In that moment, the jester understood a profound truth. Stories had power, but it was the telling and the belief behind it that shaped reality. And perhaps, just perhaps, a fool's truth could be the kingdom's greatest magic. But as the sun rose, so too did the distant rumble of war. The rewritten prophecy was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, in turning words into deeds and laughter into legend. and Jasper, the Jester King, was ready to lead the charge. I always thought that assembling a council would be like gathering a troupe of merry musicians, each playing their part in harmony. Instead, it was more akin to herding enchanted catsif. Those cats were armed with scrolls, swords, and an unhealthy dose of self-importance. The grand chamber where the council met smelled of old parchment, stale wine, and something faintly resembling burnt toast, though no one seemed willing to own up to that last scent. Lady Pompington arrived first, as always, gliding in on a tide of silks and ruffles so vast I half expected her to require a moat around her person. She carried herself with the solemn dignity of a queen, though her frown suggested she thought of us all as particularly dim jesters. "Your Majesty," she began, her voice dripping with the kind of formalities that could curdle fresh cream. "Before we embark upon matters of state, allow me to remind you of the indispensable importance of procedure. Without it, chaos reigns." I nodded sagely, wondering if chaos wasn't exactly the condition I'd inherited, and if procedure might just be a fancy word for bureaucracy's endless game of hide-and-seek. At that moment, Sir Blunderbuss barged in, his helmet lopsided, and armor jangling like a brass band on parade. "Your Majesty, the enemy approaches," he bellowed, waving his oversized sword like a flag of surrender or possibly confusion. Mistress Quibble followed close behind, her eyes darting over a tome so thick it could double as a weapon. "Technically," she interjected, adjusting her spectacles, "any declaration of war must be preceded by a formal notice, delivered in triplicate and countersigned by at least 2 witnesses. Otherwise, it's merely a misunderstanding of the highest order." "Ah," I said, "so the enemy might be at the gates, but if they haven't filled out the paperwork, we're still at peace." "That's reassuring." The chamber erupted in a flurry of papers as Lady Pompington began outlining the kingdom's regulations, each clause more labyrinthine than the last. It was a masterpiece of obfuscation, designed to sound impressive while accomplishing nothing. I found myself chuckling quietly, which earned me a look from Mistress Quibble that could have frozen molten gold. Amid this chaos, the Whisperer lingered in the shadows, as always. I caught their eye and felt a shiver run down my spine. There's something unsettling about a person who blends so seamlessly into the gloom that you forget they're there until they whisper a secret that changes everything. "Your Majesty," the Whisperer murmured, slipping a folded note into my palm. "Not all who advise have your best interests at heart." I unfolded the parchment discreetly, reading a cryptic warning of a plot brewing beneath the council's farcical meetings. It seemed that while we argued over the shape of imaginary battles and the wording of imaginary letters, real danger was stalking us with a grin as sly as mine. "Well," I said aloud, "it appears we have more than paperwork to worry about." Lady Pompington blinked at me as if I'd just suggested we replace the royal seal with a rubber chicken. "Your Majesty, might I remind you that decorum is paramount?" "And might I remind you," I replied, "that sometimes the truth prefers a bit of disorder." As the meeting wore on, I learned much about the strange alchemy of governance. Wisdom was often hidden beneath layers of nonsense, and folly at times wore the guise of strategy. Yet, in this motley assembly of misfits, I glimpsed the threads that might just hold our kingdom together, if only we could stop tripping over them long enough to weave them properly. The night ended with no clear solutions, but with a promise that even the most absurd counsel could be the kingdom's greatest strength, if only we could laugh long enough to outwit the shadows gathering beyond our walls. And so, with a heart full of hope and a head full of jingle bells, I prepared for the next act in this comedy of errors. Because in a land where only the fool tells the truth, sometimes the best counsel is a good laugh followed by a sharper blade of wit. But as the candles guttered and the echoes of debate faded, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real fool was the one who thought this would be easy. After all, history has a cruel sense of humor, and I was its punchline. The siege began not with a clash of swords or the thunder of catapults, but with a decidedly unexpected volley of pies. Yes, pies. Custard, cherry, and an unfortunate number of cream-filled marvels flew through the air like enchanted missiles, splattering on the enemy's battered siege towers and armor with a slapstick splendor that would have made any court jester proud. From his vantage point atop the city walls, the jester turned, king watched with a gleam in his eye and a grin that threatened to split his face. "Let them taste the sweetness of our resistance," he declared, his voice ringing out above the cacophony of laughter and squelching fruit. Around him, his ragtag defenders scrambled to reload their unconventional arsenal. Sacks of slippery marbles, enchanted whoopee cushions that emitted thunderous blasts, and the piece de resistance giant rubber chickens enchanted to squawk insults in the enemy's own tongue. Captain Snort, his trusty and wheezing leader of the city guard, led a contingent of guards decked out in the most ridiculous armor imaginable. Their helmets sported feathers and bells, their breastplates painted in garish polka dots, and their gauntlets fashioned to resemble oversized gloves that seemed more suited for juggling than battle. As they clanked and bumbled forward, their armor jingling and clanging with every awkward step, the besieging forces halted in confusion. The sight was so absurd that the enemy soldiers found themselves doubling over in laughter, their battle lines fraying under the unexpected assault of mirth. Meanwhile, Lady Haphazard, the noblewoman advisor infamous for her erratic and unpredictable strategies, was orchestrating the defense from the war room. The chamber looked less like a command center and more like the aftermath of a carnival gone rogue. Maps were strewn with rubber chickens, exploding whoopee cushions, and hastily drawn caricatures of the enemy's generals. Her hair, a wild tangle that seemed to have a life of its own, shimmered with faint magical hues as she frantically rearranged her plans with manic energy. "If they think they can storm Scilly with swords, let's show them the sharp edge of satire," she proclaimed, her eyes sparkling with a mix of panic and delight. The jester nodded approvingly, recognizing in her madness a kindred spirit. As the siege towers crept closer, the enemy commander, General Fumble, fumed in frustration. His armor was dented and smeared with pie filling, his helmet slipping perpetually over one eye. His attempts to rally his troops were undermined by the uncontrollable giggles and snorts spreading through his ranks like wildfire. Every time he raised his sword to issue a command, a custard bomb or a squawking rubber chicken seemed to find its mark, sending his soldiers into fits of laughter instead of battle. Under cover of darkness, the trickster twins slipped through the enemy lines. Cloaked in shadows and armed with slingshots and enchanted tickle devices, they moved with stealthy grace. Their muffled laughter was contagious, and with every ticklish trap they set, the besiegers succumbed to helpless giggles and convulsions. No soldier could keep a straight face. The battlefield became a theater of absurdity where discipline was replaced by delirious laughter. Back on the walls, the jester addressed his weary but spirited defenders. "Remember," he said with a twinkle in his eye, "the greatest weapon is a laugh in the face of danger. Let's turn this siege into a festival they'll never forget." The defenders responded with renewed vigor, launching an array of enchanted pies, slippery marbles, and whoopee cushions with a precision that belied their eccentricity. The enemy's morale crumbled under the relentless assault of humor and trickery. What should have been a grim and bloody siege transformed into a riotous carnival where the line between battle and performance blurred. Yet beneath the laughter, there was a sharp edge of truth. The jester understood that this war of illusions required more than swords and shields. It demanded wit, courage, and the ability to find strength in the ridiculous. For in a kingdom where truth was a rare jewel, and lies were the currency of power, sometimes the fool was the wisest of all. As dawn approached, the enemy's siege engines lay tangled in nets of feathers and custard-soaked ropes, their soldiers too exhausted from laughter to continue the assault. The city of Scilly had held through absurdity, resilience, and a refusal to bow to fear. But the jester knew better than to rest easy. This victory, as sweet as it was but a single act in the grand farce of war. The final act, he suspected, would demand even greater cunning and a deeper understanding of the strange magic that bound truth and lies together. With a sly grin, he turned from the ramparts, already plotting the next move in this chaotic dance of fools and kings. After all, he mused aloud, in the theatre of war, the joke's only funny if everyone plays their part. And so, the siege of Scilly became legend, not for its battles of blood and steel, but for the laughter that echoed louder than any war cry, a testament to the power of humor in the darkest of times. Yet, as the city celebrated its improbable defense, shadows stirred beyond the horizon. The war of illusions was far from over, and the jester's greatest challenges were yet to come. For in a world where truth was a weapon and lies a shield, the line between victory and folly was thinner than ever. The chapter closes on the jester's thoughtful smile, a man who had turned siege into spectacle, laughter into resistance, and folly into a weapon sharper than any sword. The question lingered: could the kingdom of Scilly survive the next act in this absurd and enchanted war? The curtain rises again, and the fool's play continues. The grand doors of the royal palace swung open with an almost theatrical flourish, as if the night itself had been scripted for spectacle. The air was thick with perfume and anticipation, swirling under the glow of countless crystal chandeliers that scattered light like 1,000 tiny stars caught in a net. A sea of masked faces ebbed and flowed across the ballroom floor, their eyes glittering with secrets and unspoken schemes beneath the elaborate disguises. The jester, now king though the crown felt as foreign atop his motley head as a caged bird feels in a gilded cage, stepped into the heart of the masquerade with a mixture of amusement and wariness. Around him, the chatter and laughter wove a tapestry of lies and half-truths. This was a dance far more intricate than any performed on the polished marble floor. Every glance was a gambit, every smile a carefully calibrated mask of its own. The jester's keen eyes flicked from one guest to another, reading beneath the painted smiles and jeweled visages, sensing which truths lurked beneath the layers of deceit. For all the whimsy and revelry, the masquerade was a battlefield where alliances were forged and broken with a whispered word or a well-timed toast. He caught sight of Lady Merelda, her silver mask shimmering like moonlight caught in a spider's web. She moved with a feline grace, eyes sharp and calculating despite the softness of her gowns. Their paths crossed in a quiet alcove, away from the prying eyes and eager ears of the court. The flickering candlelight cast shadows that danced across their faces, revealing and concealing in equal measure. "Your Majesty," she murmured, voice smooth as silk but edged with steel, "the masks we wear are more than mere costume. They are shields and weapons alike. Tell me, can the fools see through them all?" The jester smiled, a wry twist of lips beneath the painted grin. "I see what lies beneath, Lady Merelda. Sometimes, the truth is the most dangerous mask of all." Their exchange was interrupted by a ripple of gasps from the ballroom. The crowd parted like a tide, revealing Lord Grimald in the center, his dark velvet mask torn away to reveal a smirk that was all challenge and contempt. The jester moved toward the disturbance, every step measured and deliberate. "So, the great unmasking," Lord Grimald sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. "Tell me, fool, what use is your truth when it leaves you so vulnerable?" "Vulnerability," the jester replied coolly, "is the price of honesty, and honesty is the sharpest weapon I wield." The confrontation crackled with the tension of a drawn blade, the court holding its breath in the balance. But the jester's eyes were calm, steady as the moonlight that spilled through the tall windows. As the revelry resumed, the jester found himself alone on the balcony, cool night air washing over him. Below, the distant strains of laughter and music drifted like ghosts through the moonlit gardens. He leaned against the stone balustrade, thoughts swirling as the night deepened. Masks and masquerades, what truths could survive such a night? And how many lies were necessary to keep a kingdom from tearing itself apart? The jester's heart was heavy with questions, yet buoyed by a fragile hope that even in a world built on deception, laughter and truth might yet find a place to dance together. The night was far from over, and the game had only just begun. The jester knew that the masks would come off eventually, but when they did, what would be left beneath? And would the fool's truth be enough to hold the kingdom together, or would it shatter like glass under the weight of its own revelations? With a final glance toward the glittering ballroom, the jester stepped back into the shadows, ready to play his part in the greatest masquerade of all.